Hi everybody, and welcome back to another video. My name is Lori. Today I am so excited for this video because I am reflecting on my 6th year of reselling, which I'm celebrating this month. Over the course of these 6 years as a reseller and 5.5 years on YouTube, I've sold over 10,000 items on the multiple platforms that I've been on. It totaled over $300,000 in sales, not profit. And I've also created 575 YouTube videos for this channel. I really hope that some of my experiences over the years will give you some information about what life as a reseller looks like in 2024. I'll address questions about how I avoid burnout. I'll talk about the item that earned me the most profit in all of the 6 years I've been a reseller. I'll share with you what my most profitable year was on Poshmark and also talk about my numbers for this year in total. You asked me so many great questions. At the very end, I'm going to talk about my liquidation that's going to be happening in the month of September. I got several questions about that. I just want to say thank you to everybody who sent in questions and express my gratitude for your support for these past 6 years. I would not be here without you. If I think of it, I will put timestamps below because I answer several questions. This video is about 50 minutes long. Let's get into this video. This first question is, what made you start in the first place? Which I thought was a great question to start with. The answer to that is I have been an on-again, off-again reseller. I had been for probably 15 years before I decided to really dig in and do this with any sort of real level of commitment. As many of you know, I worked at American Girl from 2008 to 2018, and in that span of 10 years I ended up taking 2 years off around 2015 or 14 or 16, around there. And I actually started my reselling business. I was selling only on eBay, funny enough, and I had no idea about the reseller community. I didn't know that people had accounts on Instagram. I never thought to watch a YouTube video. I wasn't a YouTube person. I didn't watch YouTube videos about reselling, and I eventually let it go. I have had an account with eBay for over 25 years. One of the first big things that I sold was we were living in California. We were pregnant with Anthony. It was 1998, and eBay was relatively new, and I used to sell Mary Kay. We were moving back to the East Coast, and we decided to sell off all of my Mary Kay. I want to say that it sold for around $400, but it wasn't until I worked at American Girl when my good friend Rafaela, she was a big part of my story. I feel like Rafaela was barely 20 when we worked together at American Girl, and I didn't know her very well. And she was leaving American Girl to move to Pennsylvania and pursue a full-time career in reselling. She introduced me to the community. She introduced me to Poshmark, and the irony of it all is she walked me through. Poor thing, I must have emailed her every day. She really walked me through how Poshmark worked, gave me tips. At the time, she had done a couple YouTube videos that I watched, and I was just completely enamored by all of it. Jenna from Empty Hanger at the time was like a pioneer, I considered, with just kind of presenting all of her reselling stuff in a classy way, and I loved her style. She did a lot of how-to videos with reselling, and I say this all the time. I remember being under my covers at night like a little kid with my phone watching Jenna's videos and just consuming as much as I possibly could about reselling. And the rest, as they say, is history. It opened up this whole world to this community for me, and then I eventually went on to YouTube. That's how it all started. I still can't believe that I get to shop for a living. And now, obviously, YouTube is a big part of my income, which we'll talk about later. That is how it all began. And if I spend this much time on every question, this will be a 3-hour video. This one is an easy one. Have you ever sold on Vendoo? Vendoo is one of the platforms, one of the marketplaces that you can cross-post to on Vendoo. I tried it out in the beginning. I do not sell over there. Next question is, how long did it take you on YouTube before you generated an income? This is a great question. I've gotten this quite a few times through the years. It took me 10 months to get monetized on YouTube, which for the first several months, I had no idea that I was even working towards monetization. I did not get into YouTube to make money. The reason I honestly started YouTube was because I would get so excited about my thrift hauls, and I thought it was annoying at the time to put too many things in my Instagram stories. This is honest to God the reason why I went on YouTube. I didn't want people to feel like they had to tap through so many of my stories if I had a long haul. So I said, well, a way to remedy that is if I just do a YouTube video, then people who want to watch it, they'll go over to YouTube, where I feel like when you're going through Instagram and you're on stories, there's always that one person that has like 1,000 things in their story and you're tapping through. That was my motivation. And I filmed my first video vertically. Hi, welcome to my first official thrift haul. I've been wanting to do one for such a long time now, and for whatever reason, I just haven't managed to do one. My office was too messy, I had too many things, my clothing wasn't prepped. I feel like I'm finally in a place where I can start doing these. I was in my pajamas in the basement, and I just done a haul at Savers I was really excited about, and I just said, what the hell, I'm just gonna film. So it wasn't until October that I got monetized. In order to get monetized on YouTube, you need to have 1,000 followers or subscribers, and you need to have over 4,000 watch hours. I had no idea about this, and it was probably in about September, late September, my youngest son, Rocco, said to me, Mom, you're pretty close to being monetized, or I bet you're monetized. And I'm like, what do you mean? My child explained to me how to get monetized, and Rocco actually submitted all the paperwork. Well, he filled out the forms with me, and I actually got monetized very quickly because I think I already had what I needed. I just didn't know to apply. And even when I first got monetized, the money was not very significant. So I would say it was probably another 6 months before I felt like I was really, speak of the devil, Rocco just came home, before I was really making anything worth noting. I never really recorded how much money I made. There was one video at the time, again, I was completely oblivious. I didn't look at my analytics, but there was one bins video that picked up some momentum in the algorithm, and that was what I feel like really kept my channel going. And I think just being consistent really helped. I just kept coming back to YouTube, really enjoyed it. And now it's more than 50% of my business. So I'm very grateful that I'm on YouTube. I know not everybody feels success with YouTube, and it is a ton of work for not very much for a very, very long time. So I always say you have to really love it, but I encourage you to do it. If it keeps you up at night thinking about it, then just film a video and worry about the details later. Actually, I have 3 YouTube channels now, and it's getting a little hard to manage. But anyways, I do love YouTube, and that's a great question. Next question, what do you do with items that don't sell? Do you donate, keep them until they sell, and how long do you keep them? If you've been following me for a very long time, you know that I still have items from 2018 in my inventory. We are working on that. My assistant Tina and I have been slowly going through all of my inventory bin by bin. First of all, we see if it's listed. Then we see if it's listed on Poshmark. We decide, do we want to keep this listed? Let's cross-post it to eBay. We have to look at comps, decide where the price should be, or if we even want to keep it. It is a judgment call, piece by piece. I don't have a blanket system for everything. There are certain items that I will probably continue to relist over and over for several years. And then there are items that I look at and I think, why did I ever pick this up? Those will often be donated. Oftentimes I would pull things and sell them on Whatnot and think to myself, if I brought them to a buy, sell, trade store or a consignment store, I might get $3 or $4 for this. So it's worth selling on Whatnot, selling it for $5 to $10, and then making about that same amount and not having to schedule appointments and bring things to consignment stores. Since I started doing live sales more regularly, I don't do consignment selling much at all anymore. Because I pay somebody to photograph things, it actually costs me money to list things outside of the platform fees. So I have to decide, is it even worth having Tina take the photographs, or should I just donate it? So I end up donating a fair amount, but we go through bin by bin. Some people are very systematic and they have a percentage that they will always offer off based on how long it's been, and then they'll relist it, and then if it goes through the cycle twice, then they boom, donate it. I'm not that organized. I am an emotional seller, and so sometimes I just look at something and decide if I want to hold on to it a little bit longer or donate it or relist it. So probably not the best answer, but that's my truth. Next question, any advice for resellers with physical limitations that can't go to the thrift store and the bins? This is another question that has come up before, and there are some fantastic resellers that primarily do all of their research online. So if you really do your homework and you look at some of the top selling brands or high-end brands and what they're selling for on Poshmark, and you can just go into Poshmark, type in a brand and a style or a category, and then look at sold comps, and you can see how things are selling. But I think there is a great market for people who can shop online in the comfort of your home, buy low and sell high. I just think there's more meat on the bone when you're dealing with higher end stuff. So say you buy a pair of Gucci shoes that somebody lets go for say $50. And you buy them, you clean them up. Maybe they were a little scuffed up, but you know that you can make them look better. Maybe the lighting in the photograph was dark. Maybe the pictures were terrible. And then you get that same pair of Gucci shoes, you get them home, you clean them up, and then all of a sudden that gets shipped to you, you make it look lovely, and then you can sell that same pair for $250, and you make all this money. You have less listings, and you don't have to leave your house. So online shopping is a great way for people who have some physical limitations. And if you don't want to do all that work, you could still do thread up bags. I know a lot of people who run their reselling business just by shopping on Whatnot. They'll buy a bunch of bundles. They'll go into Whatnot shows where there aren't many people to compete with in the show, and people are just liquidating. They buy low and they sell high. I think the most important thing about that is just always doing your research. You'll have shipping costs when you're purchasing online, and oftentimes you're spending more money than you would at the bins or thrift store. So it forces you to do your research, I think, a little bit more than when you're in thrift stores. Next question is, who are your favorite YouTubers? This is funny because this has changed so much through the years. And currently, I do not consume a ton of reselling content, funny enough. I have been consuming a lot of art content, using watercolors and drawing with fountain pens. I just find it very relaxing. But when it comes to reselling, I'm assuming you're asking about resellers. There are two people in particular who I do check in with a fair amount, and that is because both of these creators are further along their journey as far as the views they get on their videos, their subscriber count, and their overall success, I would say, on their channel. And you don't have to measure your success on YouTube by how many subscribers or views you have. That is a very personal decision. But for me, I'm kind of interested in seeing the people who are a little bit ahead of me, like what style of video are they doing? What kind of editing are they using? What are they picking up? What is their style? Are they doing big hauls? Are they doing more on location, like thrift with me stuff? So one of the creators I really love is Hustle at Home Mom, Ashley. She is so sweet, and I find her to be very down to earth. She has 3 small boys. I have so much respect and admiration for young moms who do this, because I did not start reselling until I was 45 and my kids were older. So the people who juggle YouTube, reselling, and motherhood, I am just in awe of them. Ashley also has a professional editor who does her videos, and that's always been something in the back of my mind. Like, should I pay for an editor, free up more time for me to thrift more and sell more and put more videos up? I'm always trying to decide what parts of my business I want to hold on to and what parts I want to let go of. And I think Ashley is a great example of somebody who let go of her editing, and I think it served her channel pretty well. Her editor is very humorous, and the pace of her videos is fast. It's not so much about what Ashley is finding, it's more about how she's presenting it on YouTube. So I really enjoy her videos for that. And I like how she involves her husband, and he's such a cutie, and they just seem to have so much fun. So I really enjoy Ashley's videos. The other person who I watch, I'm just fascinated because her numbers are off the chart, and she's so down to earth as well. I do like people who are just very relatable. That's what I like to watch. I've never been big into advice giving, or like, you should never pick this up, or always pick this up, or this is what you should do, or this is what you shouldn't do, because I am super flawed in my reselling business and as a human, and I just think different things work for different people. So I would never want to tell people how I do things and expect that they should do it to be successful, or promise that they'll be successful if they do what I do. So I just like people who kind of just share their stuff. And the other person who I really enjoy is the homeschooling picker. She does more of just like yard sales, and she's very no frills. And she doesn't even necessarily do a big haul at the end. She does really interesting thumbnails, which is another thing that I'm always analyzing about what I do well or not well. I like her thumbnails because they're very engaging and they make me want to click on the videos. They're very different from my thumbnails in a lot of cases. She's just somebody that I feel like I can learn from, and she also sells hard goods. So in the case of the homeschooling picker, I appreciate that she knows more about hard goods than I do. As I move along in this journey, I may do more hard goods as time goes on. So anyways, those are the two YouTubers who I really enjoy watching in the reseller space. Next question, how many items do you have returned? I don't get many returns. This is something that I've always gone back and forth with. I promised myself, and I actually promised you as my audience, that I was going to start accepting returns on eBay. And just out of sheer laziness, I haven't turned on returns. I've been kind of lucky lately, knock on wood. There's a case open right now on a skirt on Poshmark that I'm probably just going to take it back. I have been super busy, so I haven't even addressed it. Sometimes I just let Poshmark decide. It was a Laura Ashley skirt. There was a drawstring on the inside of the skirt that almost looked like somebody had strung in like a black elastic and they tied it on the inside. It was vintage from like the 90s or early 2000s. So I just left that detail out. But anyways, that might come back. I don't really sweat it. The only time I really get upset is when people lie. In this case, that was probably on me. So if Poshmark sides with the buyer, that's fine, and I will just relist it. I would say that my return rate, and this, I'm just literally pulling this number out of the air, is like less than 2% of the items that I sell. I don't know if you sell on eBay and you do accept returns. I would love to hear in the comments if you find that you get a lot of returns. I feel like I get a ton of lowball offers, but I don't get a ton of returns. And I have to give some credit to Tina here too. She's very good about disclosing as much information as she can about an item. I think that that really works to our advantage. We always include measurements. If there's a small mark on an item, we'll take a photo of it and then draw a circle around it, so there's no question. And I think the more you can describe, the less likely you are to get returns most of the time. The next question is, what is your favorite find that you have discovered at a resale shop? If you've watched any of my Q&A videos, this question always comes up, and I feel like I always have the same answer. And this is also going to be the answer to what's the most money I've ever made in a sale. The only thing about this is I didn't technically find it. My friend who I was shopping with found it at Savers and brought it over to me, and it was I would say, new without tag. It was so new, the tag was so crisp, that if it wasn't made in 1970 something, I would say that this was new without tag. It was a prairie gunny sacks dress that we bought for about $4 at Savers. And it was a size 10, which if you know vintage sizing, a size 10 from the 1970s is like a size 6 today, maybe even a 4. I've sold several gunny sacks dresses, but this particular one sold for $600 on eBay. And we paid about $4. But I didn't technically find it, but that was pretty amazing. I bought a pair of new without tag Bally's leather boots that retail for $1,050. That was on the Bally's website. And I wanna say I paid like $20 or $30 for them. They haven't sold yet though. So I recently picked up a Burberry jacket at a church sale, and I paid like $5 for it. That's still available too. This is the thing, like I have some of these things priced high, so some of them are still in my inventory. But yeah, the gunny sacks was the biggie. Next question, I'm thinking of Vendoo to start cross-listing from Poshmark. I have about 200 items, any advice? You guys know I'm a big Vendoo fan. Today's video is not sponsored by Vendoo, but I do have a link always in my description if you're ever interested. Vendoo has been business changing for me because I was just not anybody who felt comfortable or took the time more than didn't feel comfortable listing on eBay. And they have over 10 marketplaces, so it's not just eBay. To me, I feel like the more eyes that are on your items, the higher the chances that you sell it. And eBay has such a bigger audience than Poshmark. It's not even comparing apples to apples. So of all the platforms, that would be the one that I would first recommend. You also have the opportunity to do international shipping, which you can't do with Poshmark. So that's even a global set of eyes on your items. And I also think you have to think about how serious you are, because there is a monthly fee, and it's like a sliding scale depending on how many listings you do every month. It's a personal decision. I think it's worth the investment, because once you start cross-listing, like say if you had those 200 items on eBay, and say you even sold 5 of those items in an entire month, those are 5 items that you didn't sell on Poshmark. So chances are the profit that you made selling those items on eBay will be enough to pay for the service. You should also take a look at your inventory though. Are you buying stuff that is desirable? Is it the presentation, or is it, you know, Poshmark? Because Poshmark's been pretty dead for me lately, although this month has been not bad. I think you just have to look at all the factors. Vendoo can be an incredible tool. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Vendoo, so I'm partial, but maybe people can leave in the comments what they think of Vendoo, if it's worth it, and you guys can get an unbiased opinion. I loved this question, and it's really interesting. It was, of the 6 years you've been reselling, what was your best year of profit and or sales? For me, I would say that my best year of sales was also my best year of profit. My average cost of goods is still around $5. It hasn't changed too much. If you look at my numbers, I'm gonna put a little chart up here on the screen for you, but I also wrote things down. So 2021 was my best year on Poshmark. So these are just Poshmark numbers, because I didn't start really using eBay consistently until probably 2022. And it wasn't until 2023 and now 2024, they're neck and neck. I don't feel like it's fair to give other numbers. So I'm just gonna give Poshmark through this year, and then this year I'll share my numbers for other stuff. So my best year was 2021. I did $56,000 in sales, $56,163 in change in 2021, which to me is no surprise. We had a pandemic in 2020 and everybody was home. And by 2021, things still weren't back to normal yet fully. And I just think that sales were at an all-time high. You know, a lot of people couldn't leave their house or weren't comfortable shopping. So online sales were the best. So in 2018, because I didn't start my business until August, my sales were only $5,300 in that year, because it was just the second half of the year. I was just getting started. But 2019, I was like, damn, Lori, I did $31,000 in sales, $31,175 in 2019. 2020, I jumped up to $47,945. 2022 was my best year at $56,163. 2022 dropped to $44,104. Then last year, my sales on Poshmark were $48,486. But this year, you can see on the chart, so sad. Poshmark has been sad for me. So far this year on Poshmark, I've only done $13,500. And again, if you've done $1,000 in sales, this is not to criticize anybody, and it's not to make myself look bad if somebody did 100,000 in sales by this point. This is just my own numbers. We all have different business plans. My numbers are my numbers. I'm not comparing them to anybody else, just my own. And when I look at my own stats from previous years, the fact that this year I'm only at 13,000 and we are more than halfway through the year, it is not looking good for me on Poshmark. But I did pull my other numbers. So on eBay this year so far, I've sold 11,681. So like I said, much closer. And then I've sold $4,000 on Whatnot this year. So far this year across all 3 platforms, I'm at 29,274. So I could still technically be on track to get, you know, upwards of 50,000 plus in sales, which is great for me. One of the goals I've always had was to make $100,000 overall with reselling, YouTube, affiliates, sponsorships, live sales, the whole picture. And I'm not there yet. Most of my income now is coming from YouTube, and not YouTube Google AdSense like we talked about earlier. That is a good amount. But if you take sponsorships, affiliate marketing, and what I'm paid for Google AdSense, plus I have another channel that I get some revenue from. So overall on YouTube, it is, I think in 2023, reselling and all the money generated from YouTube were about equal. Last year, I made more money on YouTube and all the things I just mentioned. And I expect that's going to be the same this year. Not before taxes, obviously. But after what I pay for all the services, like I pay for Posher VA every month, which is a sharing service that shares my Poshmark closet and can send offers. I pay for my website domain. I pay all of my platform fees. I pay for Canva Pro every month, which is where I do my thumbnails. I pay for Epidemic Sound so I can have copyright-free music in my videos. So there is a lot that goes into it. And thank God for Jay, because I'm the worst at bookkeeping. And I am very certain that my business would not be where it is today without my husband. I have to pay for my P.O. box every year. I have to pay for my LLC in the state of Massachusetts. I pay for a payroll service. There's a lot of balls in the air at any given time. Also, our AC is broken. We had water in our basement yesterday, and I have the door closed here, so the sound is a little bit better, but I am like starting to melt. So if you're seeing some sweat, that's why. Someone said, I got burnt out but slowly started to resell again. How do you find motivation and prevent burnout? And then there was another question or another comment. Do you ever want to throw in the towel? I think about this time last year was the most overwhelmed I felt with my reselling business. And that's when I started my declutter series. I was just like on this gerbil wheel. I felt like where I would go out, buy stuff, come home, do a video for YouTube, get things into inventory, and before I knew it, it would be time that I wanted to do another video. I was just buying. I just had to stop, and I knew it was going to affect my numbers here on YouTube, like once I stopped thrifting as much, but it was more of a personal decision. It was a business decision too, because I just had so much excess in my home, and I did 22 weeks of declutter videos on YouTube, and it was a life-changing thing, for real. To this day, I am so grateful for that series. Like, I open closets and I think, oh my gosh, I remember when I did this coat closet and I had 42 coats in this closet, and now I only have 12, or when I cleaned out the linen closet upstairs, or when I cleaned out my holiday decorations in the basement, the bookshelf, when I got rid of 300 books, when we got a dumpster and we just got rid of so many things. Like, it just changed my way of looking at things so much. And I feel like it made me much more selective about the things that I picked up. But I think that was when I felt the most burnt out, because my walls were closing in on me. I had more junk than I knew what to do with. I knew I had so many things that I could sell from my own house, like all of my American Girl things, my daughter's clothes that I'm not wearing anymore, housewares, so many things. That was the worst I ever felt. Now it's a year later, and I'm feeling really great about my space. Tina and I have worked really hard to get the inventory in order. I'm not losing things as much. We've listed hundreds and hundreds of things from my own house without having to go out and thrift. I'm not spending quite as much money when I'm out thrifting because I'm not thrifting as frequently. I feel like this year I'm just struggling to stay in it, mentally in it. And I think that has to do with the fact that I started a second channel, that I'm in my 50s. I'm trying to enjoy more artwork in my life, which has just been kind of feeding my soul, and I really like it. I'm not as engaged with the community of reselling anymore. I feel like I'm not spending as much time on Instagram, which is probably a good thing. However, I feel a little bit more out of touch. I used to do a lot of collaborations. Because the numbers also have been so low on Poshmark, as I just mentioned, it's been hard to want to stay in it, which is why I'm doing my liquidation, which came up in a couple questions. I don't know what I do per se to get excited. Sometimes I go thrifting, to be honest, even though I'm talking about getting rid of so much. Sometimes if I have a really good thrift day, it just gets me right back in the saddle, and I get so excited to come back and talk about those items to you and get them listed. And I love researching stuff, so that is still true. I think because I'm not as involved in the community and I'm not doing as much research these days, maybe I'm just out of touch with like what's even popular. I see my numbers and I see the things that sell for me, but I wouldn't say that I am at the top of my game with like what's really popular right now in the reselling world. And I think it's getting really hard. I think there are a lot more people reselling. I'm not listing quite as much as I used to. Sometimes if I want to just gain some momentum, it's a good time to go back to basics and go into your Poshmark closet or your eBay store and send out a bunch of offers. Look at some of your listings. Are they where they need to be? Do you need to just cut your losses on some stuff and take some 60% off offers just to get things moving? What could you do differently to get yourself excited again? Maybe you go through your bins and you donate a bunch of stuff so you don't have as much, and then you're just really proud of the things that you have. Or look at your numbers and see what's actually selling. Like I said, I'm an emotional shopper, I'm an emotional seller. So all of those things considered, sometimes for me, it's just good to look at the actual numbers. Like, what is my best-selling brand? What is my average cost of goods and my average sale price? And just give myself some of the information I need to move forward and make better decisions as a seller. And sometimes for people, I have never been the main money earner in my family, and that is a complete luxury, and I acknowledge that, and I've always known that. I am not putting food on the table for my family. I am not paying my mortgage with the money that I make. That is very different than some people who are trying to make it as resellers and do this full time, and they wonder, like, am I going to be able to make ends meet? And if I had that added pressure to this profession, I would not be doing this. I don't think, because I just, what I make does not cover my cost of living. So it would be difficult for me to do this if I wasn't an extra earner in the family. I was a stay-at-home mom for 20 years. So I worked at American Girl part-time, on and off for 10 years. That was a very easy income to replace. I was not someone who worked in corporate America, or even, my degrees in teaching. I wasn't a full-time teacher with benefits and a salary. That would be a different story if I had to replace that income. But when I think about reselling and what keeps me in it is I still love doing this. I love the hunt so much. I love coming home and sharing what I find with you. And I love the flexibility in this profession that I have. So for all those reasons, I figure out ways to stay in it and stay motivated. And one of those things that I am doing to stay motivated is my liquidation. So we can talk about those questions, because I definitely have been feeling a little bit more burnout or potential to burn out. So my liquidation is going to be an effort to stay excited about the content I'm creating here on YouTube and about reselling in general. My camera is overheating and I've been chatting for almost 45 minutes. So I'm going to take a little breather and let my camera calm down, and then I'll come back and answer the rest of the questions. Okay, so I have had lunch. Tina and I went through an entire inventory bin, so I have some updated information to share with you. And I stole what was left of Rocco's iced coffee, added coffee from this morning, put more ice in here, and I'm ready to go. I have never gone through all of my inventory until like this past year with Tina. So she just came up with a bin. She always says, what bin do you want to go through? And I say, surprise me. We probably had maybe 10 items in the bin that just weren't listed anywhere. There were probably 10 items in the bin that were listed on Poshmark, not on eBay. And then these were some items that were donating. Somebody asked, what do I donate? What do I keep? I delisted and relisted most things. There were a lot of Athleta pieces that I decided to keep in my inventory. These are examples of items that I decided to donate. So this is like a crushed velvet One Clothing tank top that I probably never bought myself. This was probably something from Angelina's closet, and I said I will list it. It's really not worth the time to list this, in my opinion. You might have great luck with these brands. This brand is called Empyre, E-M-P-Y-R-E. It's a cute top. I don't think it's worth listing. I think when I searched listings, some of these tops from this brand were priced as low as $7. Most of them were like $15. If I can't list it for above $20, these were items that were in the bin, but they weren't listed. So I would have to have created a new listing for these. I used to have a different assistant. We had a bunch of drafts at one point. When Tina came, we got rid of a lot of the drafts, and some of the stuff were left in the bins, and we kind of just started over. So bear with me, there's a lot of disorganization. This laundry by Shelly Segal, giving this to Angelina. It's just a sheer top. I don't know if it's a nightgown. I don't know if it was meant to be a dress, but I'm gonna give it to Angie. She can wear it over a camisole. She can style it somehow. And this tank top by W5 is also something I decided that I was just going to donate. So these were 3 things I'm donating, 1 thing I'm giving to Angelina. So I thought that would be helpful because we just went through a bin. What are the best selling brands for you then versus now? Okay, I have not done the research on this. This will be an emotional answer, not a fact-based answer. But I would say when I first started, Anthropologie was a really big deal. That was one of the stores that Jenna from Empty Hanger loved. Out From Under and Moth and Maeve. There were a lot of like house brand Anthropologie labels that I would just get so excited to find. Lululemon was absolutely huge at the time. Lululemon's very saturated now. I still pick up Lululemon. I still pick up Anthropologie if it's the right brand, but just it's not as good of a seller. Brands like Rothy's just became such a huge thing, like Rothy's or Teaks. I found a couple pairs of Rothy's that like just got me so excited. Now, if I found Rothy's, I would still be excited, don't get me wrong, but they just don't sell like they used to sell. So there were certain brands that I would just get so thrilled to find that now are just like, Patagonia is in that category as well. If you could find a better sweater in 2018, it was like gold. This is why I feel like I probably need to do a little bit more research, because if you ask me today, what are the hot brands? I mean, my top selling brands are American Girl, because I'm selling all of my own stuff. I worked at American Girl and we used to have these insane employee sales. Like I'm talking, we'd get dolls for $15. We would get outfits that resell for $25, $30 for $1. We'd get accessories for $3. So I have so many American Girl things. So that's one of my best sellers, but I don't know if that's like trending or anything on Poshmark. Probably not. If I go into Closet Insights for me and I look at this current year, what my top selling brands are, American Girl is number one. I've sold $2,300 in American Girl this year. Madewell is number two at $1,476. Free People at $1,457. Nike at $1,310. Levi's at $1,000. Athleta at $979, and Talbot's at $951. Now, I am not somebody who seeks out Talbot's, but I have done so many buyouts that have had Talbot's that is one of my best sellers. That is not a brand that I look for. Lululemon, Eileen Fisher, Vineyard Vines, Lego, those are all like my top selling brand insights this year. I'm not joking. If you ask me like what brands do I look for now, I don't even know that I could give you like what I'm on the hunt for. I really have to reevaluate. I feel like I've been picking up the same old brands, and maybe that's why my sales are a little slouchy. So I don't feel like I can answer that second part. Damn, there's a Reddit thread from 4 months ago. What brands sell best on Posh? I'm just curious what people said. For me, it's products from Aritzia. I do like Aritzia. Someone wrote mall brands. Honestly, I sell a surprising amount of Old Navy. Someone said I would have never guessed that. I just read to you what my top selling brands are, but that doesn't necessarily mean that those are brands I'm on the lookout for. So to be continued. Once I do my liquidation, I'm gonna have to really reassess, and this is the type of stuff I'm gonna have to do a deep dive into because I don't have these answers for you. But I hope that at least gives you some insight. This question is, how did you learn to make your videos and do you edit them yourself? I was christened by fire when it comes to editing my videos. I am self-taught. I watched a lot of YouTube videos. I made an enormous amount of mistakes. I still use iMovie, and I purchased Final Cut Pro years ago, and I'm just a baby. I put out a couple videos a week typically, so I've never taken the time to actually learn Final Cut. I think it would make my life so much easier. This is where I wish there were like seasons for YouTube. You know, when networks go on a break for the summer and then they come back in the fall, I feel like I need to take a break in order to educate myself and get my editing skills up to snuff where I want them to be. However, I'm still working on iMovie, which really does so much for me. I mean, I wish I had cooler fonts and I wish there were some editing things that I could do, but I am self-taught. There are a lot of great videos out there, and it took a while. If I ever wanted to up my YouTube game, put out more videos, I probably would need to go to an editor because it's very time consuming for me. One video, like a what sold video or a video where I go to the bins and I'm popping up price comps on the screen for you, where there's voiceovers or there's music or there's lots of different cuts, like I'm doing a ship and shop and I'm showing you what I'm selling, and then I go thrifting, and then I come home and do a haul. Those videos can take like 8 hours to edit. So it's definitely a time consuming process. I happen to enjoy the editing piece. but it's still very time consuming. Which has been more financially lucrative overall, reselling or YouTube? I think if you look across my 6 years of reselling would be more lucrative. I think if you look over the past 2 years, YouTube and everything that goes with YouTube, sponsorships, affiliate marketing, and Google AdSense, that is more lucrative for me current day. When is your closet sale, or did I miss it? There's a lot about my sale coming up, so I will address that. You did not miss it. How do you keep your inventory organized? We use a tote scan system, which is a QR code that logs our inventory in particular bins. And in addition to that, over the past couple of years, really very much so in the past year, we're also adding a specific SKU. So the SKU that's on that QR code, we're also adding to the listing in Vendoo. So we have like 2 ways of checking for inventory. So if it's not in tote scan and we can't pull it up by the QR code, then the SKU is right in Vendoo, so that when we go pull stuff, we have 2 ways of checking it, and it's been working so much better. What do buyers ask you in comments that frustrate you the most? If people ask me to try things on, it doesn't frustrate me. That's just a hard pass. I don't even respond to that. If people ask for the measurements, it's kind of comical because I'm probably guilty of this too, but people will ask for the measurements and they'll be in the listing, or they'll ask for the fabric content and it's in the listing. Sometimes people just ask the question before they get to the answer or read the description. So that can be frustrating, but it doesn't bother me. People can ask me questions. I've been bad about answering questions in general, so I'm sorry if you have a question for me. Re-ask it and I'll try to be good this week. I guess the most frustrating thing would be if they ask questions about the listing that are actually in the description or in a photograph someplace. How do you decide how much to spend on inventory monthly? I honestly haven't tracked that in years. I know what I spend, but again, that gets back to the accountant husband. He gets all of my receipts. I used to thrift a lot more, so I think I used to keep tabs on it more. But now I kind of look at it as like the year as opposed to what I'm spending in a month. Thriftless February, I don't thrift at all. When I was doing all of my closet clear outs and my decluttering every week, I wasn't thrifting much at all. Then I'll have maybe 2 days in a week that I can go into Boston and I hit like 5 Goodwills over 2 days. Then I'll probably spend like $500 or $600, but then I'm not thrifting again for 3 weeks, you know what I mean? So it's very inconsistent now. Before I used to thrift all the time, so I used to have a budget. I would say that the best way to figure out how much to spend is to see how much you're selling. If you're selling about $2,000 a month, then you can figure out what your profit margins are and how much you need to reinvest into your business. I think it's a real personal question, not like personal meaning I wouldn't answer it. I just think it varies so much from one seller to the next and one budget to the next. I think this is going to be my last question because I feel like it's going to be a long one, but I'm not going to get into crazy detail because I have a lot of videos coming out on this. You've been talking about liquidating your closet. How do you plan to do that? And then what is the plan to replenish it? So yes, I have been talking about liquidation, and I think this comes into the question of burnout, the question of like, what are the brands that are selling now for you? What would you do differently if you were to start over? I think that was one of the questions in here. What advice would you give to yourself starting out? It would be to be very mindful about what I'm purchasing, to get a good inventory system in place right away, and to get my own business credit card right away. Those would be things I would have told myself. But I just have been feeling sluggish with my business lately. I have over 1,500 items in my inventory. Some of the things I priced based on comps 3-4 years ago, and I just need to get back in touch with all of my inventory. I have things that I wouldn't buy today that I bought 5 or 6 years ago. I just need to overhaul it, and I think it would be good for me. I think it would be a renewal of excitement for me in the content that I'm creating. It will also clear out the space downstairs. We have to rip up that rug. If you remember, we got water in my basement, and that's what kicked off the whole decluttering process, and it just like took on a life of its own. Now I want to do some stuff up here. Now that I've spent the year decluttering, I just want to start fresh. It's been 6 years, and I'm not a person who goes through my inventory all the time. I'm just getting around to it now. So I want to ask myself the question, like, what would you buy if you were just starting over? I don't even know the answer to that question yet because I need to do a lot of research and some soul searching to decide what my business would look like in 2024 if I was starting all over fresh, like fall of 2024. And that's what we're going to get to see together. So that's the reason for my liquidation. I don't want to have 1,500 items in my closet. I want under 1,000. I've been saying that for a long time, but somehow, you know, my inventory just keeps growing, which means I'm not selling as much as I used to, or I'm buying more than I need, or I'm getting things from my house that are just adding to my inventory numbers. And I just can't seem to get that number down. I'm priced too high, so things aren't moving as quickly. There's a slew of reasons why my inventory is where it is. And I think it would just be good to start over. So my plan is to probably in September, when Angie is off to Spain and Rocco is off to college and Tina's son is settled in his college, and we are just like back to our fall routine. And it's only gonna be on Poshmark. I'm gonna start by using my Posher VA to send out offers. And I'm gonna start with probably 20% off my entire closet, and then I'm gonna do 30%. Maybe I'll mix it up and do categories. I did over $7,000 in sales in December when I did Happy Holidays, and I did a deal a day, and I marketed through YouTube. That was the most successful sale I've ever had. Part of me is thinking that might be a better angle, doing like 40% off tops or 40% off shoes, whatever it is. I don't really know. I need to come up with a plan and stick with it, but it's going to be some sort of like tiered sale where the savings increases each week. There are going to be about 100 to 200 items that once I hit a certain point, I'm not gonna liquidate. I'm not gonna liquidate my favorite Yves Saint Laurent belt that I found. I'm not gonna liquidate my new with tag American Girl dolls that I spent $200 on. I'm not gonna sell those for 50 bucks. So that is not going to happen. So there will probably be about 100 to 200 items that just are not gonna go, I'm gonna say below 50%. American Girl stuff is probably not gonna go below 30%. They are not gonna be part of the mass liquidation. There's a lot of like little caveats in here, but the idea is to sell off as much as I can. If I get to the end and I have stuff in my Poshmark closet that I'm selling for 80%, or I'm just giving like great bundle deals and they're still not selling, I will maybe decide if I wanna delist and relist, or I will pull them and either donate or do whatnot sales or Poshmark live sales. The idea is to get rid of most of my inventory, save those 200 items that really excite me, that I want to take with me into my new business model, figure out what my new business model is. Maybe I want to stop selling certain categories altogether. Do I want to specialize in shoes or denim? I need to answer these questions for myself. Do I want to go more high-end? If I did more high-end things, I think it might be better for my reselling business, but I feel like YouTube is really where my heart is. The hunt of traditional thrift stores is what I love to do. It's what my audience loves. So I have a lot to think about, but I just want a fresh start. We're gonna rip up the carpet. I mean, if I have 1,500 items, I wanna get rid of like 25 to 30% of my bins and just have it all in one location. I want to streamline more stuff. So I will get into the details when I have them for you, but the sale portion of it is just going to be like a tiered system where I start at a certain number and we, you know, kind of decrease as the weeks go on. There used to be a time where I set real strong goals, like I want to sell 100 items a month and I want to have $5,000 in sales, and how am I going to get there? And I would write on my calendar, like I need to make on average 5 sales a day and $175 a day to hit that goal on Poshmark, or whatever the number is. I miss those days, and I feel like that was like a nice guide for me. Like if all else fails, I can just look and be like, well, did I sell 5 items today? Or did I sell $150 in inventory today? Or how was my week? At the end of the week, I would tally how much I was selling, and I was really good. And I'm like Miss Planner. I have more notebooks than I know what to do. But I want to get back to some real tangible numbers that will help guide my business. We are going to talk a lot about this, and there's going to be a lot of soul searching going on in the fall, and hopefully some improvements in my business. But I think we will end it here. There's going to be so much more on that. Let me know if there's anything specific about the liquidation, or if there's like a behind the scenes that you would like to see, or just content in general. I'd love to hear what you would like to see more of, because your feedback is really important to me. So thank you so much. If you are still here, I know how long this video is, so wow. I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you would like to see more from me, or if you would like to see my journey. in the fall of kind of starting over again. I think my goal is to figure things out between September and the end of the year, and then get through the holidays, and then kind of emerge in January where I want to be. Like, it's gonna look like I really want it in January. I'm gonna give myself that like Q4 to get my act together, figure out where I'm going, and I think it's gonna be really interesting. So I hope you'll stick around for the ride. Thank you guys so much. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and thanks for being here. Talk to you soon. Bye.